Back in 2017, I had the worst scare of my life. My daughter was 19 at the time and had just started working at a restaurant about 20 minutes from home. On most weekend nights, her and her coworkers would hang out after their shifts, and then one of them would usually give her a ride home instead of me having to pick her up. I constantly questioned her about the usage of drugs and alcohol at these little get-togethers, but she always told me that there wasn't any and I was being overprotective. I reminded her that if she ever needed a ride and didn't want to wait on her friends, that all she had to do was call me. One Saturday, she texted me from work and said that her and her coworkers were going to a college party. She said she would probably just stay up at the school and come home in the morning. The only way I was letting that happen was if I talked to a parent of someone else going. And although my daughter said it embarrassed her, she knows I did it out of concern for her safety. I accumulated enough information to feel comfortable with her going. I told her I wanted her to text me every hour until she went to sleep, and then to text me again as soon as she woke up. I received her messages around 8 and 9 p.m., but when I didn't hear anything at 10, I decided to give her a call. I wanted to hear her voice one more time before I went to bed, but she didn't answer. There was no way I could fall asleep without that conversation, so I decided to keep my clothes on until I heard back. 15 minutes later, I was dialing one of her coworkers to find out what was going on. The coworker said my daughter had been acting a little strange and then complained about feeling sick. I asked if my daughter had been drinking and the coworker said not to her knowledge. I asked why I hadn't been notified and she said they thought the pizza upset my daughter's stomach and she was just sleeping it off, but something just didn't feel right. She told me my daughter was asleep a few rooms over. I told her that I was on my way. The drive was usually about 35 minutes, but I probably got there in about 20. And when I did, my daughter was nowhere to be found, and she still wasn't answering her phone. I began cussing out each of her coworkers, but they all swore the last time they saw her, she was lying down in the room with the door locked. I demanded to see nearby camera footage, though I was told that I couldn't without the police. But the campus officers seemed to be inept at their jobs, and when the lone deputy arrived to investigate, he wasn't much more help. I kept being told to calm down, but that was impossible while my baby was missing. I called her father to let him know what was happening, and he came up to the school as well. They allowed me to walk the halls while my ex-husband drove around the outside of the campus. We did that until nearly 1 in the morning. Then one of the officers found us and said that he may know where our daughter was. Me and my ex-husband followed him to a nearby gas station. Our daughter was behind the counter asleep in a chair. The attendant said someone dropped her off and told him to call police. They said they found her sleeping on a nearby bench, and I guess they could tell she wasn't homeless. She woke up in the hospital the next day with no recollection of how she got outside. The last thing she remembered was bringing her dinner back up in one of the dorm bathrooms. The doctor said it was probable that she had a beer, but no drugs were found in her system. Our daughter's never been a sleepwalker, and she hasn't had any episodes since that day. It's still one of the biggest mysteries in our family. I have no clue whether we'll ever get an explanation. I just know I'd go crazy if something were to happen to either of my children.